Robert Greene is one of those authors who either make you deeply uncomfortable or open your eyes forever. A profound observer of human nature, Greene has devoted his life to deciphering the invisible dynamics of power, the ones that govern success, failure, and relationships between people far more than we are willing to admit. In this video, I will summarize the fundamental concepts of his thinking, explaining why feeling powerless is one of the deepest fears of the human being, how to recognize the power games around you, and above all, how to stop being naive without losing your values. Write in the comments if you feel too good in life and why. Now let's listen to what he teaches us. When people ask me why I've devoted my life to studying power, I have to go back in time, to my childhood. I was a very sensitive child, perhaps too sensitive. My parents were good people, don't misunderstand me, but they were not particularly demonstrative from an emotional point of view. This led me to develop a kind of defense system. I became a careful observer of the people around me. I spent time studying my parents, trying to understand their moods and reactions, to avoid doing something that might disturb them or get me scolded. It wasn't so much fear as the need to have a certain control over the situation, not to feel completely at the mercy of events. That sensitivity, that need to understand human dynamics in order to protect myself, became the foundation of all my later work. When I left university, I had a rather rude awakening. I had studied literature, ancient languages. My field was ancient Greek. Wonderful subjects, but completely impractical in the modern world. I was full of dreams, illusions, romantic expectations about what working life would be like. And then, bam! Reality slapped me in the face. I wandered for years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I lived in New York doing journalism, then went to Europe. I taught English in Barcelona, worked as a hotel receptionist in Paris, worked on construction sites on a Greek island, gained experience at a television company in London. I tried everything. In all these jobs, with all the different bosses I had, I began to see recurring patterns. There were power games everywhere, manipulations, hidden strategies. People wore masks. No one openly admitted wanting power or control over others. Everyone claimed to have noble motivations, but beneath the surface, there was always something else. Then I arrived in Hollywood, and that was truly the peak. Hollywood is perhaps the most power-obsessed environment I have ever seen, precisely because no one there wants to admit that power is their true objective. Everyone talked about art, creativity, liberal causes, but the truth? They wanted power, period. I observed this duplicity. On one side, they presented one image to their employees and the outside world. On the other, they constantly practiced these power games. And that was what inspired me to write The 48 Laws of Power. You see, my sympathies have always been with the underdogs. I feel no sympathy for Hollywood executives or big company CEOs. I feel sympathy for people like I was, thrown into these environments without truly understanding them, somewhat naive, unaware of the rules of the game that others seem to know instinctively. I wanted to reveal to everyone what really happens behind the scenes, the real power games that people practice. It's not that I'm obsessed with power itself. It's that too many people like me are naive. They don't understand what they're getting into. They don't understand how harsh and brutal the world can be. I wanted to help them by revealing the lessons I learned the hard way. There is a huge misunderstanding about what power really is. People think it's about CEOs and presidents, that it's something dirty and negative. I have a completely different conception. Power concerns your everyday life. Here's the point. In our lives, there is so much that we cannot control. We could say 95%. You can't control illness. You can't control the people you meet. It's by chance that you met your wife and fell in love. Often you end up in certain jobs almost by accident. There is a great deal in life that is completely beyond our control. But there is a margin that we can control, and that margin mainly concerns our relationships with our children, our partner, colleagues, bosses. The feeling of having no control over them, that they can do whatever they want, that you can't get your ideas across or stop annoying behaviors. This, for me, is the worst feeling a human being can experience. We are animals that need to feel able to influence our environment and the people around us. The sense of powerlessness is a primordial and terrifying feeling. It's like when you take an animal, a dog or a cat, and put it on its back. It feels exposed, terrified, and that's when it might attack you. That position of vulnerability is exactly what we feel when we can't control our teenage child who is using drugs, when our partner doesn't listen to us, when the boss does whatever they want without considering us. We want at least the ability to defend ourselves or to have some influence. But there is an even more important aspect that I was about to forget. Power over ourselves, self-control. Because many of the problems we have in life stem from the fact that we cannot truly control ourselves. We are at the mercy of our emotions, our moods, the things that obsess and possess us. Our minds have recurring thoughts that we can't stop. We have habits we want to eliminate. We take a course, follow a program, and 3 months later, we're back to square one. It's frustrating. So the sense of being able to control yourself to some extent, and of having some influence over people, this is power. And the more of it you have, the better you feel. Because you avoid that sense of powerlessness that drives us all crazy. Much of this misunderstanding about power comes from our culture, which often teaches us the wrong lessons. In movies, on television, in the media in general, all the villains are these power-hungry people in black coats and tinted window cars who do terrible things. That's what we think of when we hear the word power, a negative cultural paradigm that we've all internalized. No one thinks of power in a positive sense, and that drives me crazy. It's incredibly hypocritical when self-help books are written that portray power, ambition, or influence as negative things, when the same authors are very powerful people who have influence and control. It's terrible. Let me give you an example. Who is one of the great saints we venerate in our culture? Mahatma Gandhi, right? I certainly venerate him. He was an extraordinary person. I studied Gandhi very deeply and wrote about him in my 3rd book. His goal was to drive the British out of India so that the people could finally experience independence, because they had been subjugated for so long that they had almost forgotten what it meant to be human. A very noble goal. But Gandhi quickly understood how difficult it would be, so he had to be strategic. He organized things like the Salt March, planning everything in advance. He knew that by using his method of civil disobedience, where when the police arrive you don't fight, you accept it, even if they beat you, the newspapers would cover the story of British police beating peaceful people. And this would have a terrible impact in England, because the English thought of themselves as liberal and open-minded, not horrible imperialists. Gandhi was strategic. He knew he had to get maximum publicity for these violent confrontations. Years later, Martin Luther King, another icon who practiced civil disobedience, used the same tactics in his campaigns. At one point, very controversially, he involved 13 and 14-year-old boys in a march, knowing they would be beaten. Many people in his group criticized him harshly for this, but he knew that those images broadcast on television would shock white American audiences. If you want power in this world, if you are fighting for a cause, if you want justice, you must be strategic. You must think in terms of power. People do not spontaneously give up their control. Take the Me Too movement. Men will not simply give up their control in places like Hollywood. You have to hit them. You have to be strong and decisive. It's a power game. And I can't stand naive people who think that just by being themselves, just by being virtuous, they will get what they want in life. There is an offensive and a defensive aspect to the laws of power. When people have problems with laws like crush your enemy totally and say, I don't want to do that, well, I don't necessarily want to do it either. If you are reading a law and it makes you shudder, then it's probably not something you should do anyway. It doesn't fit your way of being and operating. You have a certain style, a certain system of values. I am not telling you to go against your values, but look at that law, which is probably the most brutal in the entire book. And understand that in the business world, that law prevails 95% of the time. When a company like Google or any tech company has an enemy, their goal is to eliminate it completely, to buy it so they have no competitors. Look at Amazon. But small businesses behave the same way toward rivals. You need to be aware of this and not be naive. You don't have to practice it, but you must know that it exists. Other laws are simply attempts to show you how we function. We are animals who base our opinions heavily on what we see and perceive. We don't always think deeply. We often judge people by appearances. There is a law called always say less than necessary. It's a law of common sense. The idea is that in a meeting, the man or woman who speaks the least generally radiates an aura of power, especially if they are a boss. They seem enigmatic, mysterious, and when they say something, everyone hangs on their words trying to understand what they meant. Whereas people who talk a lot give the impression of being weak. They signal weakness. They can't control themselves. And if they can't control themselves, how can they control anything in the business world? So be aware of this. You are probably talking too much in many situations. If you see a law that makes you shudder, there is no problem if you don't want to practice it. There are many laws that I don't practice myself, but you must be aware of them. You must know that other people are practicing them so that you don't become their victim. Then there are other laws that you should practice, such as appealing to people's self-interest when you try to influence them, or avoiding what is free, learning to pay for things and to be generous with your time and money. I hate it when people say, "What an evil book." Those are people who haven't read it, because half the laws or more have nothing evil about them, and the other half are about opening your eyes to reality. I never said you have to practice these things. I'm just making you aware of what happens in the world. Unfortunately, in today's world, and I've experienced this myself and we read about it in the news, many people with a dark side, whom we might consider rather immoral in their behavior, go very far. And they use these laws without paying the consequences. There is no ultimate justice in this secular world, even though there may be in a religious sense. But people who truly want to destroy their enemies might succeed even better than someone who tries half measures without truly believing in them. I'm not here to say that justice and goodness always prevail, but people with those intentions, the real sharks of the world, don't need my book. They already know it's in their DNA. It was implanted in them from the age of 5, 6, 7. The great psychoanalyst Melanie Klein identified the greedy child as early as 6 months of age, the one who sucked so hard at the mother's breast, and saw that this type of child turned into very aggressive adults. It's rooted very early. But those manipulative people, I firmly believe, eventually hit a wall. They anger so many people. They don't understand the soft side of power. They have no self-control because all they know how to do is grab, push, take. They don't know when to yield or step back. They have learned only one way of operating, and that becomes their downfall. In my books, I teach you that being direct and shouting never works. You must learn the art of insinuation, of persuasion, which often means stepping back, teaching them a lesson, mirroring their behavior. Your intention is not bad or evil. It's simply that you cannot live with this person unless their behavior changes. So you think about it, strategize a little, take a few steps, and it works. This is power in everyday life, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with it.